Welcome everyone to the L7C podcast, Combat Sports Edition. Today we are going to be talking some UFC. We're going to be talking some mixed martial arts in general. We're going to talk a little bit of boxing, just catching you up on what antics have been going on. And now the halfway point of February 2025. We have the MMA expert with us, Mr. Chuck Marlowe. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing fantastic. Doing some house hunting, so I'm busy.
Hey man, even throughout all that busy, you've been able to keep up with what's been going on in the fight game. Your last podcast was the one starting the year, talking about your hopes that you had for 2025, and we've had some fights since January 2025. So, where do you want? What caught your eye so far? I know we're only 2 months into the fight year, but what caught your eye so far in results wise?
Um, so far, we could go back to the first real big one of the year. I think was UFC 311. Supposed to
Hmm.
be Islam and Arman. Arman getting hurt with a back injury. That just to be such a last minute pullout, and then Renato Moicano stepping out of his fight and then stepping up to fight in for Islam. I think that take a lot of courage. Very brave. Lost in the first round, obviously due to submission. Just wasn't he wasn't ready for that fight against Islam, and he's not on Islam's level. I think he still has some work to do to get up to there. I mean, first round submission, that's good for him. But also from the Nurmagomedov camp with Khabib, we had Merab and Umar on that same card, and that was the fight of the night. That fight was actually amazing. It was everything I imagined that fight was going to be, and that's what I told you guys it was going to be. It was nothing but grappling. There was definitely boxing exchanges and striking exchanges. But I think the big thing was the grappling, and that's what made it so good. I'm very interested to see what Dana does here if he ends up doing the rematch for Umar. I mean, the fight was very close. I thought it was a little bit closer than what the judges thought it was. There's other people who thought it was closer, other people who thought it was definitely clear results. I think that one was such a toss up. They should run it back just because it's a toss up and everybody has discussion built around it. Plus, Umar broke his hand in, I think, the second round, I believe, and he was fighting with a broken hand. So let's try and give him a healthy hand, give him another fighting chance. That was a good fight. Also on that one, the biggest lock of the night, like I told you guys, Jiri Prochazka at plus odds against Jamal Hill. Don't take me wrong when I say this. Jamal Hill is good. He was very good at one point. He still is good. He's just not. He's not there yet. Jiri is a different mythical warrior in of his own sense, and for him to win like that in knockout fashion was really nice. Easy plus money. But yeah, that's one from the UFC 311 that really stood out the most to me. Then you move on to Adesanya and Imavov. It was a fight night. It wasn't he's not fighting for a belt for once, which is pretty insane. Adesanya not fighting for a belt. And that night we saw why he wasn't fighting for the belt. Yeah, some people will say it was early stoppage. I don't think it was early stoppage. I think he had him down, he had him hurt. Nasruddin Imavov has shown a lot of good striking lately. And it really stood out in that fight against Adesanya, who's a high level striker. It's like all the strikers can't fight anymore. They were getting figured out. If you look at the striking, it was 26-15, so it wasn't like it was anything insane as far as striking. And Adesanya was landing 52% to Imavov's 48%. But it's just that was the pretty interesting part about it. His significant strikes were more. He was striking pretty good, but it's just he caught him, and I don't think his chin's there anymore. And I told you, like some of these fighters, once they lose confidence, it's kind of downhill from there. And we might be watching Adesanya be on that downhill frame.
Yeah, Chuck, let's say real quick about that because Adesanya is one of the bigger personalities in the sport, and just looking at people forget he was actually favored in this fight, like odds wise.
Yeah, he was. And it wasn't like it was super huge favor, but I mean, it was still favor. And I mean, it's for that reason. It's Israel Adesanya. He's had probably one of the best middleweight runs. He's been holding the belt since the last time he fought for not he didn't fight for a belt was when he fought Anderson Silva in Anderson Silva's retirement fight, which was like, oh, I can't remember off the top of my head. That was years ago. It was probably about 7 to 8 years ago. So he's no 6 to 7 years ago. But he's been holding his belt for such a long time, and he's been at the top of this division for such a long time. To see him lose and then be on this losing tear, kind of, it's just it's what happens to fighters. You don't get to be number one forever.
What do you want him to do? Does he need to go back ground zero, work his way back up? I mean, he's a big enough name that you don't want him at the like undercards of fights.
See, when I look at the rankings and I look at things like the middleweight division, I think he can run through most people, but not every single person. Like, I don't know if he can run through a Kamzat anymore. I think he could beat a Sean Strickland. Um, I don't know. Him and Whitaker, I think, would be a little bit of a closer fight now. And I think there's not really any matchups that people really want to see. So maybe you look at maybe him moving up to light heavyweight, giving that a chance against some fighters, and maybe going against Alex Pereira again, get Magomed Ankalaev, Jiri, and a bunch of different other matchups you can maybe make for him. Plus, you get some more weight, which makes your chin a little bit more durable in those type of fights. Maybe we see what he's like with a little bit more weight, and you see what that's like. Try it out. If you don't like it, don't do it. If you like it, do it. Maybe take like a half a year off, maybe to train and get up to a good weight that you like, and see if you like it. I don't know. We'll see him back for sure. I just don't know what he's going to be doing next time when he comes back out.
Okay. And then to the victor, what do you see him doing going forward?
For Nasruddin Imavov, so now he has that number one title ranking, or number one contender ranking. And so I want to see what they do. So with Sean Strickland just now losing to Driscus, you obviously don't make that matchup again because he's lost twice to him. And also Strickland didn't look better in the second fight against him, but we'll get to that later. Um, you have Kamzat. You either do 3 versus 1, Kamzat versus Nasruddin to see who fights Driscus, or you put Kamzat versus Driscus or Nasruddin versus Driscus. One of them ends up fighting Driscus. I know Nasruddin's number one, but Kamzat is kind of that person. If you put him up for the belt, people are going to buy in and they're going to pay to see him win. So I don't know. I say he's going to get that title. He's going to get a title shot. It's just a matter of when. Or he's going to have another contender to fight, like maybe Robert Whitaker, even,
Mhm.
just to see where he stands and to see if he's really ready for that title shot.
Chuck, this fight night was still on ESPN Plus, right?
Yes, it was on ESPN Plus, so it's free for everybody to watch. Um, no charge to you.
So just for the people who are trying to get into the UFC this year and they want to watch it, so fight nights on ESPN Plus are free, but the pay-per-view events you have to still pay.
Correct. Yes. Pay-per-view events you always have to pay for. Once it gets to that main card, you only have to pay for the main card. So the prelims, the early prelims are all on ESPN Plus, always for free. So you can always watch those for the build up to the fight. And then the fights are always like the main cards for like the UFC main events, like UFC 311, 312. Any of the ones usually with the numbers are going to be ones you have to pay about $70 for. Depends. Sometimes there's discounts. So it ranges usually from 65 to $80, depending on the event and if there's any specials or deals or price hikes going on at that time.
Chuck, there's something else that another fight may not be as big, but we did talk about this actually on the last podcast because for whatever we know the reasons why, but again, this thing is about getting stars too. She is ascending. Mackenzie Dern, she had her fight on January 11th, and she won her fight where she was actually an underdog plus 164, and she won in the third round via submission, and her stardom continues to grow.
Yeah, so Mackenzie Dern, um, I think her stardom grows for multiple reasons.
Yeah.
Obviously, she's probably the most attractive woman in the UFC. I mean, a lot of no offense to most of these MMA fighters, a lot of them are combat sports, so they're getting punched
Hmm.
in the face, a lot of plastic surgery, a lot of mess up. They're not the typical chick that most guys would be into.
Hmm.
Just going to be blunt and kind of honest, but I think that that's a big draw for her. Plus, I think her skill wise, I don't think she's like a top level fighter. Like if you put her against, let me think, someone in her division right now. Like if you put her against her, I think she will win. Um, put her against, okay, matter of fact, against the title holder. I'll just even do that person right now. Zhang Weili. Will she beat Zhang? No, not at all. Zhang will clear her.
No, no.
Um, Tatiana Suarez, who she just fought. I think she wouldn't beat her. Jessica Andrade, who I don't think she would beat her. Amanda Lemos, I don't know. That's a tough one. There's some people in there I don't think she'd win against. I just think she has a big draw and gets a lot of attention just based off of her looks and her behind. But I mean, yeah.
Uh, yeah, it's a deadly combination in just making a name for yourself in any of this stuff that if you have the looks and you put that on top of winning, that's how you really become a superstar. And like you said, there's people in the division she's not going to be able to beat. So she's gonna have a ceiling. Like, she's gonna have a certain point where she's like, this is as popular she's gonna get because her looks aren't gonna change and she's not gonna beat the best people in the division. Now, if she trains up and beats the people we just named that you just named that she couldn't beat, then
Oh
it
yeah.
might change. But
Oh
I
yeah.
don't see that happening.
Yeah. She would have to really put in some work. Like I'm not saying that she's not putting in the work and the effort, but I'm just saying off of a level of what I see from Zhang Weili, I don't think she's at that level.
Now, a woman who I think can be the best person who has the thing. Where's Kayla at? Where's Harrison?
Really quiet lately. That's one thing I will say. And I think it's really quiet for multiple reasons.
Hmm.
Either someone wants to come back in and be
Nunez?
a gatekeeper, or they're going to make a title shot announcement here soon. But I just know it's been very, very quiet. She hasn't been very active, and I know the people are waiting, and the people are itching. They want to see more Kayla Harrison. They don't want to see her sitting ringside in the crowd waving at everybody. They want to see her in the cage fighting. So I don't know. There's some rumors probably swirling around, but I haven't heard anything recently, and I know they need to get on something here soon for Kayla Harrison.
Yeah, because I think she's the one who can. She can be next up. She really can be.
Oh, she
I mean,
will.
she already.
She's one of those female fighters who you'll be up there and you'll be like, all right, I want to see her fight Zhang eventually. Like, yeah, like right now they're talking about Zhang and Shevchenko. They want shit Zhang and Shevchenko. It's like at this point, who do you think is going to stop her?
Mhm, mhm. So, okay. Yeah, just had to make sure we brought her up because I think that's where we last left off. Like, when we talked about her and then 311, 312. But then 312 just happened last week.
Yeah, yeah. Last weekend, Dricus Duplessis versus Sean Strickland, the rematch. Yeah. So like I was saying earlier, it wasn't the same. He was even less output from Sean Strickland in the second fight compared to the first fight. I mean, the striking, he only had 128 landed in this one compared to the last one, I think was like, I think maybe like 150, 170. So it's just his volume, and he was fighting so defensive. He fights defensive, so defensive. It's like he's almost scared of what's coming back. And it's just like, I don't know what he's going to do. We got to figure it out.
I was
And
about to
the
say,
thing,
like, what's next for Strickland? Because I feel like he
so
hasn't had a meaningful win in a long time.
So the thing that's weird for Strickland is like his coach came out even after the fight and was like, yeah, this wasn't his he just seemed unmotivated and he said he needs to reevaluate everything that he's doing because it wasn't inspiring coaching him because like I remember there's one point he got up from his seat and like walked away from him while he's still talking to him. Like it's just it's like, does he care? If he's just in it for the money at this point, all right, be in it for the money. But like, I'm not trying to coach somebody who's in it just for the money. He wants to coach champions. And so from the sound of it, it's like he just wants the money at this point, and he's not really like in it to win it. So I don't know. I think he has a long way to go, some things to figure out. I don't think he's going to be a top dog anymore. I think he's moved down in that totem pole. We'll see. As far as for him, I don't know what's next. I don't know if Dana's really going to want to give him any big fights after keep seeing him fighting this defensive style. It's not very fun for fans. I mean, it's a lot of stand up, which is great, but it's just very, very, very dry. So a lot of people weren't really enamored by it. And then you have Driscus who looks gassed half the damn time. And it's just like you gotta press the gas on him and keep him tired. You're letting him catch his breath because you're playing so defensive. And it's just it wasn't very entertaining in that sense.
I
Yeah,
would say
because
with
his
Strickland too. Like I think I saw today that he told that coach goodbye. He got rid of him.
yeah. So yeah, it was so I looked at it. He had 173 total strikes last time compared to 128. And Duplessis had 137 last time with 6 takedowns and only 147. He didn't get the takedowns as much this time as last time, but he was getting them on the feet, so there's no reason to take him down. Um, just overall, that was just pathetic from Strickland and very uninspiring performance, like his coach said, just because you did the same thing. But yeah, he did say he's done providing. He's done in this corner. So yeah, Eric Nicksick is done. Well,
That's
he's probably happy at this point. He can probably coach some other fighters, and that's what I would do. Coach some people who want to be inspired to win.
I feel like Strickland's still gonna get some fights because even though I guess he doesn't talk as much, but I feel like he's in that Kobe Covington category who just talks so much but doesn't win anymore.
I wouldn't put him in that. I mean, I guess I would, because yeah, he definitely has some people who aren't big fans of him, and then there's people who are big fans of him.
Mhm.
So that's kind of a toss up. Um, I think he's definitely a draw though for the UFC. He's definitely always a draw. So I say he'll get some big fights, probably some lower. He'll be a gatekeeper. That's probably what they're going to have him as up and coming stars. Put them up against them. So like the Kamzats and the Caio Borrallo from the Fight Geeks, Brandon Allen, Roman Dolidze, some of those young fighters, Roman Kopylov, Bo Nickel. You'll see him get some of those fights. Probably be a good fight for like Bo Nickel to go against a striker.
Chuck, it's middle of February, our time of recording. For people who don't know, where's the face of the company at? Where's Alex Pereira?
Oh, face of the company. The face of the company is coming back.
Okay.
He is coming back very soon. He fights March, I think, I want to say March 8th. Yes, March 8th. Um, UFC 313 versus Magomed Ankalaev. I think this is going to be a good fight. It's going to be a great fight from a striking standpoint. I think it's going to go how we expect it to go, but I think Alex does have some real danger coming towards him with Magomed and his striking. I think his kicking and his striking is very good. I think that he's going to train really hard for this fight, obviously, knowing where he's from. It's a very interesting matchup. I want to see how the reach comes into play with this. I think it's a 4 inch differential in reach, but just the build of Ankalaev, he's such a sturdy individual. I'm ready to see how he handles the power of Alex Pereira. That's a very good stylistic matchup. I think Alex retains in the end, as always, but it's interesting to see how this will play out. I want to see what Alex does after this. If he loses, obviously they'll probably rematch this because no one once saw it coming. And as far as if yeah, if he wins, if he entertains that idea that was pitched earlier from Usyk of doing a retirement fight, if Dana lets him. It's pretty close on the odds right now. It's minus 120 to plus 100, um, which I find kind of insane, but you never know.
Just looking at that card, 313. That lightweight bout, because we know Justin Gaethje. How about that one versus Dan Hooker? That looks interesting to me.
Yeah, so I like this fight because Dan Hooker lately has been a scrappy ass fighter. Ever since that Dustin Poirier fight, and he's gotten CTE brain, he has been he's been talking about how much he loves pain, how much he loves fighting, and he's been putting on some good fights, some good bloody, like just nice scrappy like dog fights. And I'm happy that Dustin woke that up out of him. He's going against another dog in Justin Gaethje, who holds the BMF title. Um, I think that's a good matchup. The only thing that comes into play with that, especially in all Dan Hooker fights and most fights he has in lightweight, is that reach. Because I mean, you have a 75-inch reach to a 70-inch reach, which is a little bit closer than what you expect for a Dan Hooker fight. But I want to see how he utilizes that reach, utilizes kicking. Don't let Justin Gaethje get in the inside, and get those uppercuts, get a lot of those power punches that he has. I like to see how that goes. I think that'll be a good scrappy fight. It's definitely going to end in a knockout. It just depends on who the fuck's getting knocked out.
Ooh, all right. That is the type of fight that people are going to need to tune in to see. Yeah, that one really just caught my attention on this 313 card. Any other fights? I know 313 is still a
Um,
couple weeks away.
Mauricio Rufy and Bobby King Green. I think that's going to be a really good fight. Mauricio Rufy is part of the Fight Geeks. I'm interested to see how he bounces back after his last win, which was uneventful. It was one of his worst performances probably so far. If you're going to be called the next Conor McGregor, I want to see what you do against a great striker in Bobby Green, which I think these are very great style matchups with those two being the strikers that they are. Bobby likes to fight with his hands a little bit lower and down. So does Mauricio. So they do a lot of different outside striking and counter strikes. So I can't wait to see how that fight goes. That's going to be a good one. I think that ends in a knockout for sure. But that's one big other fight on there that I really, really am excited for.
All right, all right, all right. Chuck, what else did you saw brought him up? You got to always ask every podcast. Is it still Jones and Aspinall? Is that still going to potentially happen?
There's rumors, there's talks, there's always discussions. I think there's still, I think John is standing strong at him wanting to get paid his 20 mil or 18 million, something like that. Um, he wants to get paid. He's gonna fight. He wants to get paid. He's willing to retire. I feel like if he doesn't get paid, so you know, it is what it is.
Someone asked me this question actually, and I want to get your opinion on this too. If because they asked if this fight was going to happen, and obviously, if John is in UFC, this is not happening. But with Dana, if John Jones retired, is that the best chance he retires? He's a free man, not under UFC flag. That we get the John Jones and Ganu fight.
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, he has to be away from that organization to get that fight. That wouldn't happen with Dana around, unfortunately. That would
Is
be gate
that
kept.
fight has so much money to be made? Is that something where that's got to go above Dana, and that's got to go to like the TKO boards? Like, hey, Dana, you got to do this, man. We're telling you to make work with them.
Now, if they were telling him to do it and get it done, it'd probably get done. Now,
Okay.
as far as like, I don't know if Dana would be a little bit strong-headed, where it's like, this is my company. I know you guys came here and own the organ, like own the company now. This is my organization. I kind of run it how I want it. It kind of get into like a little heated battle, but I think in the end, he's gonna have to do what they say. As far as TKO, it could go TKO, but it could also go over to Turkish. I can't even remember his name because I can never pronounce it right. You guys know who I'm talking about. Turkish boxing leader. That's what I call him for now. But I think it would go over to him, and he probably put the fight on because he put it on for a good price because he knows all the people want to watch it. Plus, then you also have people not. It would be cheaper fight, and everyone would get paid what they want to get paid. So he gives the people what they want, pretty much.
Mhm. Okay. Talking about the people what they want, just want to do a quick little transition to something that people do not want. That this happened after our last recording. Potentially Jake and Logan Paul fighting. Is there any real truth to that?
So I think that has real truth. I think it's just what they do: stir up controversy and sell controversy. It works all the time for Jake and Logan, and if they do end up fighting, it'll work again. It's going to be a boxing exhibition. It's going to look like it's competitive, but it's at the end of the day, it's brother versus brother making money for their family, and that's how I see it. So I don't trust it as being one of those type of things. I don't. It's not a real fight. It's a money grab, just like all their other fights, and it's okay. I mean, that's I respect what they do. They're making great money off of it. So
And it
yeah.
seems that one, obviously the last Paul and Tyson that was streamed on Netflix. It seems like this one will be live streamed on Max, which again, I kind of like that because it's better than the ESPN Plus model. Because if I'm already paying for a Netflix and a Max, I get this fight for free.
Correct. Get it for free, don't have to pay anything extra, and it's no cost to the customers, really, besides your prescription.
So, but let's stay in boxing, man. There's been a lot of boxing news since we've been away. Besides this, there's been some bigger ones.
Oh, for sure, yes. Boxing news has been exploding lately in combat sports. Um, I mean, well, I guess I'll just go straight into the first big one that we all love to see, Canelo and Terrence Crawford.
Hmm.
So that's going to be a big fight. And I think it's hilarious how it's like they were teasing the Jake Paul and Canelo fight at first. And Canelo's like, no, this ain't happening. I'm going on this 4 fight span in Turkey, led by Turkey boxing cult leader. The fact that that's what we're it's just the fact that we're getting these fights and we were just talking about it. I'm talking about how we need to get bigger names, just not really caring about the record anymore and putting on these fights because this is what the fans want. And the amount of talk that they've gotten so far based off of just that has been insane. Um, and I can't wait to see that fight happen. You got talks of Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua potentially happening here soon. I know they're both kind of older, or I don't want to say older, but they're kind of washed in their career now. But I think that that could be very interesting and see how that plays out. If that ends up happening.
Yeah, I mean that Wilder and Joshua, that's a fight, man. If you would have said, I'm so intrigued by it because it's fun. If you would have said that 5, 6 years ago,
Oh yeah, everybody
oof.
would have been. Yeah, 5, 6 years ago, that would have been money, printing money. But now this is what happens when you wait until the end of your career
Hmm.
and you wait until you now to be like, oh, okay, now I want to make the big name fights after I'm washed. Nobody wants to pay that much for into it. People are going to pay as much as they would have back in the day. They probably could have made way more money back in the day selling this fight than they would now trying to sell it.
Yeah, but and then just this thing with Crawford and Canelo, which I never thought would actually happen. I'm so shocked that there's an announcement and all of that. When that time comes, I just, ooh, Chuck, I don't know, man. Canelo's probably the stronger one, but Crawford's hands.
Shit, I think there was a picture recently, like a few days ago. Terrence Crawford weighs like 186 right now. So, like, man, he's got some weight to cut. But I mean, I think he'll have some power too coming back at him if he's at 186 right now.
Because the last time we saw Crawford fight was that the destruction of Spence when he destroyed him?
I think so, yeah. It was against Spence. and
because
he ate him alive.
yeah, he beat him so bad, people were telling him to retire.
Yeah, he absolutely cooked Crawford. I remember, and Crawford, it was to the point I think where it's like doing a lawsuit for it, damn near.
Mhm. Mhm. And then there was also talk like when that got announced, and then randomly out of the blue, Canelo and Paul was about to happen, but then that got backed out. Like, how much truth do you think there was into that?
I don't think there was too much truth. I feel like it might have been a leverage thing from Canelo's, or not, yeah, from Canelo's standpoint. I feel like he was maybe trying to leverage it and strong arm his way into getting a better deal for the fights in Saudi Arabia and everything. So I think that's really what that was. It was just like kind of a strong arm move to get what he needs.
I mean, phew, I was just so confused. I'm like,
I don't
what are
think he
we
would
talking?
really, I don't think he would disgrace the sport of boxing like that, personally. I don't think that's something that I think he knows he would tear Jake Paul up.
Yeah, and then of course you gave Jake Paul that ammo. He's making videos saying Canelo let Mexico down. Jake Paul is the face of wrestling. I'm not wrestling, the face of boxing. He's the one who you got to fight if you want your biggest payday in your career. And
Yeah, no. Yeah, no. I mean, if you want a big payday, yeah, sure. But nah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you had something you said earlier that sounded right. Logan Paul, face of wrestling in a few years.
Well,
Not Jake. Jake ain't the face of nothing. But no, I was watching, I saw some videos the other day of Logan Paul and some of his moves from that Rey Mysterio. It was an uneventful Monday night main event for Raw. I mean, like anticlimactic from the sense of Rey Mysterio and Logan Paul, but I saw a lot of the moves and improv and new moves from Logan, which I thought was very interesting and exciting for what's coming forward. And as much as everyone hates him, I think I actually somewhat love him and want him to get elevated into WWE. That's besides the point. So it's still amongst combat sports and among
yeah, they're still owned by
TKO.
TKO. Yep.
Yeah, so I'll bring that up because I heard you say it, and that's the thought popped in my head.
So, well, yeah, we'll see. I mean, he can never be a good guy in WWE.
Oh
He's
no,
just hated way too much.
no, yeah, he has to just. I think what they should do is just a good redemption story for him, make him seem like he's about to be redeeming, and then just right back to backstabbing and hating him. Build it up.
We'll see. We'll see what other things are going on in like just the whole fight game in general, Chuck. I know it's only a month in, but it just feels like so much has happened.
I mean, we got some things coming down in the future, some future events to look forward to for this year. I mean, you got Cannonier versus Rodriguez, you got
Hmm.
Cejudo versus Song Yadong.
Hmm.
But as far as big main events, you got a fight night. You have Leon Edwards versus Jack Della Maddalena. I can never say his last name right. Some of these names, man. But yeah, no, I think that's going to be a good fight. See who's probably going to fight Bilal next for that belt. And you have Moreno versus Urseg. I think that's going to be great. One of the Mexican heritage nights. I think it's going to be the Mexican heritage cards they have in Mexico. So that's probably going to be another ABC event for everybody to watch. March 29th. So if we don't have anything by then, March 29th, tune in to ABC. There's a free fight. And that's a main event. And Brandon Moreno, who used to be a title holder in that lightweight division, or not lightweight, featherweight division, um, I think that'll be a great fight to watch for free. And I mean, let me see. I'm gonna click on it just to see if they have any other fights announced for that card. Gaslam Pfeiffer. Yeah, I mean, Drew Dober, Emmanuel Torres, Lupe Godinez. You got a few names on there. I mean, they're still probably building that out, and they're probably going to add a couple other big name fighters, but look out for that down the road.
Chuck, I got an interesting question for you because we're recording right before the NBA All-Star weekend's about to happen, and by the time you listen to this, our halfway NBA podcast will be out because that's coming out at midnight on the 13th. Got an interest if the UFC could do like a All-Star fight night, like a All-Star game. five people voted on by fans, 5v5. Like, well, obviously they're not all five in the ring, but like a fight each represents the team, and whoever has the most wins on the team wins. Who would you pick for like the 10 people you would want in this like UFC All-Star weekend?
Oh shit. See, that's the pair. So that's where it gets weird because you gotta
Yep, you
keep in
got to
mind
keep it
weight
like weight
classes,
classes and
divisions.
all
You
that.
could do some catch weights and stuff, and you can
Hmm.
have people probably float around between two different weights and stuff
Hmm.
and have a range. Oh shit, that'd be tough. Okay, obviously you gotta have John Jones.
Yeah.
And if you got John Jones, you gotta have Tom Aspinall.
Hmm.
I feel like that's a big rivalry right now in the UFC that you have. You want to get some rivalries.
Hmm.
Um, get Zhang Lee and Valentina Shevchenko.
Hmm.
I think that's two good fights that people want to see. So there's four right there. Um,
It's All-Star. It's people getting voted. That means Pereira's going to be there.
yeah, you got to have Alex.
Hmm.
If you have Alex, so who do you have to have? You have to have somebody who people want to see him fight. And if you have John and Tom, that's not really going to work
Yeah,
out.
he's going to be fighting someone else. Like, and obviously we're talking about fan voting too. Fan voting. Kayla's probably going to be
Fan
there.
voting, the fans are going to vote in Jiri then. Because I mean, no one else in that division they're really going to want to vote for to see him fight.
Hmm.
I mean, there's no one that's there yet. I mean, that's or Magomed Ankalaev would get voted in just because he's someone that he hasn't fought yet.
Hmm.
And he's a number one contender. You got to get some bantamweights in there. What bantamweights? Get Sean O'Malley, just because it's Sean O'Malley. The people would definitely vote him in.
Yep. Do you do the O'Malley the rematch of that
They would
legendary?
vote. They would vote Marab. That's the thing about these events. If they did an all-star event, and you left it to the fans to vote, they're going to vote for the rematch because
Hmm.
obviously that's. I mean, it's just a better matchup.
Yeah.
And then you probably get Tapiora and Makachev.
Hmm.
Yeah, put that as a good matchup too. That's eight people, and this is where it gets kind of hard
I know, but it's such an interesting concept if you implement it for UFC. Like, I know they
because
do
it's
have like
fan voting
baseball, like
too.
yeah, like baseball they do like the right. I mean, I'm sorry, not yeah, baseball they have All Star Weekend. Like golf, you have like the Ryder Cup where it's like Team USA versus the Europeans. Like, if you did John Jones as the captain of his team and Aspinall as the captain of his team, like I feel like that's big money that they're not exploring.
I mean, it's pretty much like the Ultimate Fighter almost in
Yeah.
a way. That would be exactly kind of what it is, but it's just not. It's with people who are already in the UFC.
Hmm.
Um, I feel like they could do that, or there's other different ways they could put on like different. So that, like I said, with MMA being a mix of all different mixed martial arts, you can do karate style. You can get people like Stephen Thompson versus say Shaquan Buckley or someone like, and it'd be a karate style match. Or you get some people with Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, get like Charles Oliveira and Moicano, and have them put on like a Brazilian Jiu Jitsu exhibition rather than just striking. You can see all formats of MMA for itself raw. You get some wrestling matches, get Bo Nickel and who would be a good wrestling matchup for Bo Nickel? Get Bo Nickel. Honestly, you could try and get a good weight for. mm, I don't know if you can get him up to that weight. Get Bo Nickel and Kamzat and get them in a wrestling exhibition. I feel like people would love to see that. As far as boxing, you can get Max Holloway and Tapiora, get them in a boxing match. Like you have so many different styles you could do. I mean, I feel like if you run those different situations, then people would buy in to see that for sure.
Yeah, I think it'd be very interesting having like a UFC all-star type weekend because then you could think about like the other events that you could throw in there that could like highlight the fighters' abilities and
Yeah, like
whatnot.
skills challenges almost.
Hmm.
And then you have like your big main events. Maybe you don't even just maybe not do like an all-star voting team thing. You just had like maybe five different title fights that night also.
Ooh, yeah.
Just shift the way you do things. Five title fights. You get also showcases. So you would have your lower level fighters do showcases. Your top level fighters are going to do the championship fights. So like that's why I said you have some of these people do boxing. So then in that case, Tapiora wouldn't be boxing. It'd be Holloway and maybe Ortega or I don't know, somebody. Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of a hard point. That's when you get to that hard point of trying to figure out different styles. You get some Muay Thai matches in there too. Get Khalil Roundtree. Oh my goodness, his Muay Thai is insane. This is just that's a good idea though. I like what you're saying with that because it changes things up from the regular format, and you can get a good all-star weekend. You get all your big stars, and you get some of the up and coming risers. You can get like some of the people who just got their UFC contracts and put up some big fights for that too. Maybe they win like $500,000 in cash for winning a fight. That's going to help them to fight harder, and also I feel like that's life-changing money for a lot of those people who make $20,000 a fight, and that's before taxes.
I would also say too, with that type of all-star weekend, that is that is not something we're putting on ESPN Plus. That's got to be accessible to the masses to really,
And the thing is, it wouldn't be free.
yeah. See, that's not.
And that's not that's the thing with this type of business, it would never be free. He wouldn't do anything like that for free because you got to think about you're going to give up that money, you're going to have to pay fighters and everything else. So that's his mindset going into it from a business standpoint.
So, Chuck, anything else?
Um, No, not right now, man. I mean, combat news is heating up. Trust me, it's heating up, especially as far as boxing. Ready to see Dana's going to have to make some moves to compete with boxing here and get some big announcements because I mean, I don't feel like everybody's entertained so far this year. I feel like it's good, but I just feel like it's not great yet. So we'll see. Things will shift and belts will shift. We just got to get stuff going.
Yeah, love it. That being said, man, for people listening, if you listen to this on Spotify or YouTube, where you're allowed to comment, comment what you think a UFC All-Star weekend would look like. Like, and what would the prize pools be to make sure people took it serious? Like, again, let us know because I think UFC is missing something. I think that'd be really, really, really dope. With that being said, thank you everyone for listening to the L7C podcast. Make sure you like, rate, comment, subscribe. We thank you all for the support. Make sure you're subscribed to all of Chuck's social media handles, Twitter, his YouTube, his Twitch account, all that stuff. Chuck is also, he's the UFC expert, but he's also the commissioner of the L7C Dynasty League and NCAA 25. So he's head of that. We're wrapping up season 2. We're actually getting closer and closer to the conference championship game and playoffs and postseason. So yeah, make sure you check out that. It's entertaining. All the games are streamed, and a majority of them are placed on the L7C Dynasty playlist. I say majority, not all, but if you ever want to rewatch and see what's going on, we've had some people now reach out via YouTube trying to collab, and we love that. So, with that being said, L7C Podcast signing out. Thank you for listening to this episode of the L7C Podcast. Be sure to like, rate, review, and subscribe to the channel. Follow us on all social media platforms, and we'll be talking to you guys soon. Take care.